Hey guys, Tarke here. I'm quite tired. I've recorded a video like 100 times. Every time I record the video changes somewhat. Originally, the video was going to be reviewing the current Arch Nemesis League and the current patch for the Atlas skill tree stuff. Then I kept making reference to the last year of Path of Exile's development, so then it was reviewing the last year of Path of Exile's development. Then it was doing that and looking forward to the next year of PoE development. And then it became this weird thing where I basically came up with a just for fun, wacky idea, like a hypothetical roadmap for like what a year's worth of PoE patches could be, which was a really weird thing. And now I'm just going to kind of talk at you about Path of Exile and things that I would like to see in sort of Path of Exile's future. So, I'm not going to be focusing on like core systems, stuff like loot reworks or trade improvements, because those are things we've all spoken about to death. Those are things that we would like to see improved at some point. This is going to be more me focusing on realistic things that I would like to see changed and more kind of like big picture things, right? So like the actual direction of the game kind of stuff. So I think I personally would enjoy seeing more structured balance patches. What I mean by balance patches, think of it kind of like leagues, but I feel like when you say leagues, people think about like individual league mechanics. So instead of saying there are 4 leagues, I'm going to say there are 4 main patches to a year, right? So you get like 3 patches doing individual things, and the big end game expansion is just a crazy new system, right? So like we just had the big Atlas endgame rework, that was that big patch. We on the same track? Cool. So I would like to ideally see a year of like very structured patches. Hopefully even a system where we kind of, as a player base, know what those patches are from the get-go. And people are like, ooh, that sounds like a bit wild. Also, if you have that issue, then Tarke, that if they show all their patches up front and then development things change, then doesn't that screw it up? Maybe, but let's just hear me out. This is kind of like the weird thing I came up with when I said I came up with like a weird hypothetical roadmap. So let's say that the first patch was all like balance, right? We're talking player build. So this is a patch focused all around skill gems, passive skill tree, ascendancy, and making it really clear. GGG is like, look, player base, this is what we're doing with patch 1. We're going to be doing balance. If you want us to do that stuff, this is when we're doing it. We're doing it in this patch. We're not doing it in this patch. One thing I really liked from this patch, the Arch Nemesis one, was they didn't introduce new skill gems, which I thought was really cool, actually. Some people were very disappointed. I can understand why. But I quite liked GGG being like, look, we don't want to make things just for the sake of making them. We've done that a lot in the past, and when we do that, we don't put out our best work. Instead, we like to maybe draw in, do more considered, more focused patches. Right? So, first patch, balance. Second patch, systems. This is where you can then do like really crazy stuff with the Atlas passive skill tree we have now. By just doing like a complete overhaul of the Atlas passive skill tree, you can do so much to change core systems. You can then do that, maybe do some tweaking, stuff like bestiary, delve, whatever, like the gameplay systems. And if you had a patch which was just that, that would do a lot to change the meta without even having to touch like balance. Awesome. I think that could be really cool. So, boom. Next patch. Next patch, this is another balance patch, but rather than it being stuff like the passive skill tree or like skill gem heavy or like ascendancy heavy, this is balance in terms of looking at like actual player equipment. So this is like looking at items, looking at stuff like flasks, you know, when they do like their weapon reworks, stuff like that. I think having a patch focused all around that, and it's like this is the big yearly patch for that, pretty neat. And the fourth patch, big endgame systems, what are they doing with their big endgame expansion? And I think if we had like a year of PoE growing like that, I think that would be really interesting for a bunch of different reasons. So one, hopefully it would have the effect of having more focused patches, means that the changes that would be going through would be more considered, they'd be more focused. And by having more like limited scope, by being like, look, this is just balance, then we don't need to worry about balance for the next one, it would hopefully lead to the leagues not suffering. Because one thing we've definitely had in the last year of PoE is we might have really good patches, and we're like, oh, this patch is excellent, it's awesome, but then the league is really suffering because, you know, you can have a really small scope league, like, for example, Arch Nemesis, but then it doesn't get the polish it requires, it doesn't get the attention it needs when it's being developed initially, and then it just kind of comes out half-cooked and not quite right, the gameplay isn't there, and people get upset. Hopefully, by having more focused patches, you don't have these like weird scrambles where it feels like GGG is just trying to do everything at once. Because a lot of the time with GGG, at least for me, just looking at it from the outside, it feels like you just kind of have all these really awesome ideas all being thrown into a pot, and then because of that, it just the thing you're served at the end is like, I can see what you were going for, and there's stuff that I really like here, but like, it's just rough. Like, it's not polished. So like, it's like a beautiful diamond just with really rough edges. I think Path of Exile is an amazing game. I love Path of Exile. I think Path of Exile is getting better and better year after year. But I think it's collecting so much baggage, and unless you have a very like systemic, structured approach like that, I think that's only going to get worse. And you're like, yeah, but Path of Exile 2 fixes everything. Path of Exile 2 is years out, and also you need to have your team working on Path of Exile 2, so then you don't want to be like having this massive scramble trying to throw all these different ideas together, because that will just slow everything down, and then the community doesn't know what you're working on, so then you need to do like stupid things where every developer has to then get in front of an idiot with a podcast. Hey, I think those are cool when they do that, but you know, whatever. So I think by having this kind of approach, you would hopefully get a better product, but also it would mean the player base would have a better idea of what's going on. And also, you can then have like communication without having to get a developer every 3 seconds. Like, we had the whole 315 league cycle, and all the drama of that, and we had Chris doing all the podcasts, and then he's like, look, we want to do communicate, and then we didn't really get any communication for the next couple of leagues. But by doing really structured things like this and communicating it well, like as they have been doing with their developer manifestos recently, like, look, this is the problem, this is what we're going to try and do, this is the solution, boom, boom, boom. But then doing that for like a whole year, rather than just like the individual patch, it would hopefully just make players feel more kind of like, okay, this is what they're working on, I trust them, I know what they can do, let's kind of go. Because for me anyway, I can often feel like with GGG that I don't know what's going on. And I'm someone who quite regularly gets to sit down and talk to their lead developers. And if I'm someone who has that access, feels like they don't really know what's going on, I can only imagine what a normal player would feel like in that case. Now, for normal game dev, that isn't an issue. Like, in the case of, like, back in the day, you've got your PlayStation, you buy a random game, you just play it and complete it. Who cares? But this is a live service game, and I feel like with live service games, having that communication is important, because it helps keep everyone happy. It means that GGG knows what they're working on, it means that everyone in team knows what the plan is at all times, it means the player base knows what's going on, and it would hopefully reduce a lot of the friction that you get between the community and the developers, and the wars, and just the nastiness, and just, I'm very tired of it, to be honest, from a community member point of view, so I can only imagine how awful it is from their point of view. And, yeah, that was basically that. So, let me know what you thought of that. I never really thought I'd be making a weird roadmap kind of thing for a game I don't work on. But, I don't know, I think it's kind of interesting as an idea. What would you think if GGG did something like that? It doesn't have to be like laid out the way I said it, but like if they were like, look, okay, next year of Pee-wee, this is what we're working on. We want to hit this for this quarter, that for that quarter, that for that quarter, big endgame system expansion, whatever, let's go. Pee-wee 2 they'll say like Pee-wee 2 demo end of the year. They keep saying that. Going wildly off topic, I don't think we're getting Pee-wee 2 for a long time. So anyway, I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Hard mode when, by the way. Bye-bye.